The world watched as Pope Leo XIV stepped onto the balcony overlooking St. Peter's Square. The afternoon sun cast a gentle glow over the gathering crowd, many of whom had traveled great distances just to hear his words. Among them were countless men and women over 60, their faces marked by years of experience, hope, and sometimes quiet worry about the years ahead. They stood shoulder to shoulder, some with grandchildren by their side, others leaning on canes or the arms of loved ones. The anticipation was palpable, a shared sense that something important was about to be spoken. Pope Leo XIV began softly, his voice carrying warmth and gravity. He spoke not as a distant figure of authority, but as someone who understood the joys and burdens of a long life. He acknowledged the unique challenges faced by those in their later years, the ache of memories, the weight of loss, the uncertainty of health, and the subtle fear of being left behind by a rapidly changing world. He paused, allowing his words to settle, and looked out over the sea of faces, his gaze gentle but unwavering. He spoke of time, describing it as an old friend, sometimes a companion, sometimes a teacher, always a mystery. He reminded his listeners that every wrinkle, every silver strand of hair was a testament to a life lived with courage. "You are living witnesses to history," he said, "and your wisdom is a treasure the world cannot afford to lose." His words seemed to reach out and embrace each person in the crowd, offering comfort and validation. Pope Leo XIV addressed the loneliness that can come with age, the quiet afternoons when the phone does not ring, the empty chair at the table. He urged families and communities not to forget their elders, but to cherish them, to listen to their stories, and to honor their presence. "You are not invisible," he declared. "You are the roots that hold the tree of humanity steady against the winds of change." He spoke of loss, not just of loved ones, but of abilities, of roles once held, of the sense of purpose that can sometimes fade with retirement or illness. He acknowledged the pain of saying goodbye to friends, to partners, to chapters of life that cannot be reclaimed. Yet in his words, there was no trace of pity, only deep respect. "Grief is the price of love," he said quietly, "and to have loved much is to have lived well." The Pope's message was not only one of consolation, but of challenge. He called on those over 60 to see themselves not as people in decline, but as bearers of light for younger generations. "Your journey is not over," he insisted. "There are still stories to tell, wisdom to share, laughter to give, and love to offer. The world needs your courage, your patience, your faith." He told stories of saints and ordinary people who found new purpose late in life, of a grandmother who became a community leader, of a widower who mentored troubled youth, of friends who started anew after great loss. Each story was a reminder that meaning and joy are not confined to youth, but can blossom in every season of life. As he spoke, the crowd listened in rapt silence. Some wiped away tears, others nodded in recognition. The Pope's words seemed to dissolve the boundaries of age, connecting hearts across generations. He spoke of forgiveness of others and of oneself. He urged those present to let go of regrets and to embrace the peace that comes with acceptance. "You are more than the sum of your mistakes," he said. "You are beloved, and your life has meaning now and always." He ended his address with a blessing, his voice steady and full of hope. "May you find joy in each new day, strength in your memories, and peace in your heart. May you know that you are seen, you are valued, and you are loved." The crowd erupted in applause, many with tears streaming down their cheeks, their spirits lifted by words that truly touched the soul. As the sun set over St. Peter's Square, the people lingered, reluctant to leave the moment behind. They embraced one another, shared stories, and found comfort in the knowledge that they were not alone. Pope Leo XIV's words would echo in their hearts long after the crowds had dispersed, a gentle reminder that every stage of life holds beauty, dignity, and purpose. In the days that followed, the impact of Pope Leo XIV's words could be felt far beyond the walls of Vatican City. News outlets replayed clips of his speech, and social media was filled with messages from people over 60 who felt seen and uplifted for the first time in years. Letters poured into parishes and community centers, many written in shaky handwriting, expressing gratitude for the Pope's compassion and understanding. "He spoke to my heart," one woman wrote. For the first time, I feel proud of my age, not ashamed. The Pope's message sparked conversations in families across the world. Grandchildren called their grandparents sometimes just to say "I love you" or to ask for a story from the past. Sons and daughters visited parents they hadn't seen in months, bringing flowers, food, or simply the gift of time. In retirement homes and senior centers, residents gathered to watch the speech again, discussing the parts that touched them most. Some smiled quietly, others cried openly, but all felt a renewed sense of connection to each other and to the world outside. Community leaders and clergy took the Pope's words to heart. Churches organized special services honoring elders, inviting them to share their wisdom with younger generations. Schools launched intergenerational projects, pairing students with seniors to record oral histories or work on community gardens. The energy was contagious. Young people found inspiration in the resilience and humor of their elders, while older adults rediscovered the joy of being needed and valued. Pope Leo XIV continued to speak on the theme of aging with dignity and purpose. In interviews and homilies, he emphasized that a society is only as strong as its ability to care for those who have come before. He challenged governments to invest in healthcare, accessible housing, and social programs that allow seniors to live independently and with respect. A culture that neglects its elders, he said, forgets its own future. The Pope's advocacy reached policymakers and philanthropists. Foundations announced new grants for programs supporting seniors, from arts and music therapy to transportation and technology training. Cities explored ways to become more age-friendly, improving public spaces and services so that people of all ages could participate fully in community life. The momentum was undeniable. What began as a single speech had become a movement. Amid this groundswell of change, stories emerged of individuals who found new meaning in their later years. In a small village in Spain, an 82-year-old man started a literacy class for adults who had never learned to read. In Brazil, a group of grandmothers organized a neighborhood watch, making their streets safer for children. In the United States, a retired nurse began volunteering at a free clinic, her gentle touch and wisdom comforting patients young and old. These stories were celebrated in newspapers and on television, but their greatest impact was local and personal. Neighbors checked in on one another more often. Families made room at the table for older relatives. The simple act of listening became a gift, and the wisdom of age was sought out and cherished. Pope Leo XIV's message also resonated with those facing illness or loss. He visited hospitals and hospices, offering blessings and listening to the fears and hopes of those nearing the end of life. He reminded them that their dignity was not diminished by frailty and that their presence was a blessing to those around them. Even in weakness there is strength, he said. Even in silence there is wisdom. His words brought comfort to caregivers as well. Sons and daughters, spouses and friends who devoted themselves to supporting loved ones through the challenges of aging. The Pope acknowledged their sacrifices, urging society to honor and support those who give so much of themselves. "You are the hands and heart of compassion," he told them. "Your love is a light in the world." As the weeks passed, the spirit of Pope Leo XIV's message continued to grow. Faith communities, civic organizations and individuals found new ways to honor and include those over 60. The Pope's call to cherish the wisdom of age became a guiding principle, inspiring countless acts of kindness and connection. For many, the Pope's words were more than just a speech. They were a turning point, a reminder that every stage of life has value, and that the bonds between generations are among the most precious gifts of all. As spring unfolded, the world witnessed a subtle but profound shift in attitudes toward aging. Inspired by Pope Leo XIV's words, communities everywhere began to reimagine the role of elders, not as burdens, but as vital sources of wisdom and continuity. In city councils and rural villages alike, leaders invited older citizens to join advisory boards and planning committees. Their perspectives, shaped by decades of experience, brought depth and context to discussions about everything from education to environmental stewardship. Media outlets launched special series dedicated to sharing the life stories of those over 60. Documentaries showcased artists who found their greatest creativity in their later years, scientists who continued to innovate, and couples who discovered new love after loss. These stories, once rare, became a cherished part of the cultural conversation. Audiences responded with enthusiasm, recognizing pieces of their own families and histories in the faces and voices on screen. Pope Leo XIV's influence extended into the realm of faith as well. Parishes and congregations around the world began to offer more opportunities for elders to lead prayer groups, teach classes, and mentor youth. The Pope encouraged this, reminding communities that spiritual growth does not end with age, but often deepens. He spoke of the gift of presence, the quiet strength of those who have endured and persevered. "You are the memory of humanity," he said in one homily. "Without you, we lose our way." Governments too took note. Several countries announced initiatives to combat ageism and promote lifelong learning. Grants were established for seniors wishing to return to school or start new careers. Public health campaigns highlighted the importance of mental and physical activity at every stage of life. The Pope's message had sparked a global conversation about what it means to grow older with dignity and purpose. In homes across continents, families found new ways to celebrate milestones. Instead of seeing a 70th or 80th birthday as a quiet affair, communities organized festivals inviting neighbors and friends to honor the achievements and contributions of their elders. Children learned songs and poems to perform for grandparents, and old family recipes were cooked and shared, connecting generations through tradition and memory. Yet the Pope did not shy away from the realities of aging. He spoke candidly about the fears that come with declining health, the anxiety of losing independence, and the pain of watching friends and loved ones pass away. He urged society to face these challenges with honesty and compassion, to provide support without condescension, and to recognize that vulnerability is not a flaw, but a part of what makes us human. Hospitals and care facilities began to adopt new models of care, emphasizing dignity, autonomy, and personal connection. Staff received training in empathy and communication, learning to see each patient as a whole person, not just a diagnosis. The Pope's advocacy inspired a wave of innovation, from music therapy programs to intergenerational volunteer initiatives that brought young and old together in meaningful ways. Pope Leo XIV's message also found resonance among those who felt forgotten or isolated. Letters arrived at the Vatican from people living alone or in distant corners of the world, expressing how his words had given them hope. The Pope responded to many of these letters personally, offering prayers and encouragement. "You are not alone," he wrote. "Even in solitude, your life touches others in ways you may never see." As the months passed, the movement grew. Conferences and workshops on aging with purpose drew participants from every background. Faith leaders, social workers, artists, and scientists came together to share ideas and build networks of support. The Pope's vision, a world where every person is valued, regardless of age, began to take root in policy, in culture, and most importantly, in the hearts of millions. As summer approached, the momentum inspired by Pope Leo XIV's words showed no sign of slowing. Communities around the globe began to recognize the unique contributions of their elders in ways both large and small. Local governments hosted Elder Wisdom Days, inviting seniors to share stories and advice with young people. Libraries organized storytelling circles where memories of past decades became living lessons for the next generation. In bustling cities and quiet villages alike, older adults found new platforms to share their voices and experiences. Pope Leo XIV continued to reinforce his message through public addresses and written reflections. He reminded the world that the wisdom of age is not a relic of the past, but an active force shaping the present and future. "Every season of life has its gifts," he said during a televised address. To listen to those who have walked many roads is to discover the map of humanity's heart. The Pope's advocacy for elders began to influence the world of business and technology. Companies launched initiatives to hire and retain older workers, recognizing the value of experience and mentorship. Tech firms developed user-friendly devices and applications designed specifically for seniors, making it easier for them to stay connected with loved ones and participate in the digital world. Intergenerational innovation hubs sprang up where retirees and young entrepreneurs collaborated on projects that blended tradition with new ideas. In faith communities, the Pope's encouragement led to new ministries focused on spiritual growth in later life. Retreats and workshops explored themes of forgiveness, legacy, and hope. Elders were invited to lead rituals, share prayers, and guide others through times of change. The sense of belonging deepened as people of all ages gathered to honor the sacredness of each stage of life. Pope Leo XIV also addressed the importance of advocacy and justice for seniors. He spoke out against neglect, abuse, and discrimination, urging society to protect the dignity and rights of its oldest members. A community is measured not by its wealth, but by how it cares for those who are most vulnerable, he declared. His words spurred new legislation in several countries, strengthening protections for seniors in healthcare, housing, and employment. The Pope's message reached those facing the end of life as well. He visited hospices and palliative care centers, offering comfort and reassurance to patients and their families. He spoke of the mystery and beauty of life's final chapter, encouraging people to approach death with courage and faith rather than fear. "The journey does not end here," he said softly to a woman in her last days. "Your love and your story live on in those you have touched." Families found new strength in these moments. Farewells became opportunities for gratitude and reconciliation. Children and grandchildren gathered around bedsides, sharing memories and expressing love. The Pope's words gave them permission to grieve honestly, to celebrate a life well lived, and to find hope even in loss. Throughout the summer festivals and gatherings celebrated longevity and intergenerational connection. Music, dance, and art brought people together, bridging gaps between young and old. The simple act of listening became a cherished ritual as communities learned to honor the voices that had too often been overlooked. The impact of Pope Leo XIV's message was not limited to those over 60. People of all ages began to reflect on their own journeys, recognizing that every stage of life holds lessons and opportunities for growth. The Pope's call to cherish the wisdom of elders became a call to embrace the fullness of life itself. As the season drew to a close, the world was changed not by a single speech, but by the ongoing ripple of compassion, respect, and connection that Pope Leo XIV had set in motion. As autumn leaves began to fall, Pope Leo XIV's message continued to echo in the hearts and homes of millions. The world had begun to see aging not as a decline, but as a season of harvest, a time when the fruits of a lifetime's labor and love could be gathered, shared, and celebrated. Families planned reunions that honored their elders, gathering generations together for meals, laughter, and the retelling of family histories. In these moments, the wisdom of age became a living inheritance passed from hand to hand and heart to heart. In many places, the Pope's influence led to policy changes that made a tangible difference in the lives of seniors. Governments expanded access to healthcare, increased funding for community programs, and introduced new laws to prevent elder abuse and neglect. Public campaigns promoted the value of older adults, challenging stereotypes and encouraging respect. Billboards and advertisements featured vibrant images of people over 60 traveling, volunteering, creating art, and leading communities. The narrative around aging was being rewritten, and the world was listening. Pope Leo XIV continued to travel, meeting with seniors in cities and villages, hospitals and homes. He listened to their stories with genuine attention, often holding their hands as they spoke. He reminded them that their voices mattered, that their lives were threads in the great tapestry of humanity. "You are the keepers of memory," he said. "Without your stories, we are lost." He addressed the challenges of caregiving, recognizing the sacrifices made by those who support aging loved ones. The Pope called for greater resources and compassion for caregivers, insisting that society must not allow them to carry their burdens alone. Support groups and respite programs grew in number, giving caregivers a place to find understanding and relief. In his sermons, Pope Leo XIV spoke about reconciliation, not just with others, but with oneself. He encouraged older adults to forgive their own shortcomings, to let go of regrets, and to embrace the peace that comes with acceptance. "You have done enough," he said gently. "You are enough. The love you have given is never lost." The Pope's words inspired a renewed focus on legacy. Workshops and seminars sprang up, helping people of all ages reflect on the values they wished to pass on. Elders wrote letters to grandchildren, recorded video messages, and created memory books filled with stories, advice, and blessings. These acts of sharing became sacred rituals connecting generations in bonds of gratitude and hope. Artists and musicians found new inspiration in the lives of seniors. Exhibitions and concerts celebrated the creativity and resilience of those who had weathered many storms. Poets wrote verses about the beauty of wrinkles, the strength in a trembling hand, the wisdom in a quiet gaze. The world began to see aging as a work of art, a masterpiece painted with the colors of experience. Pope Leo XIV's message also reached those struggling with loneliness. He encouraged communities to look for the isolated, to reach out with kindness and companionship. Volunteer programs matched young people with older adults for regular visits and phone calls. Neighborhoods organized potlucks and game nights, ensuring that no one was left behind. The simple act of being present became a powerful antidote to isolation. As autumn deepened, the Pope reminded everyone that gratitude is the heart of a full life. He urged people to give thanks for each day, for the lessons learned, for the love received and given. Every breath is a gift, he said. Every moment is an opportunity to bless and be blessed. The world, inspired by his words, moved a little slower, listened a little more closely, and cherished its elders with a new sense of wonder. The seeds of compassion sown by Pope Leo XIV were taking root, promising a harvest of dignity, connection, and love for generations to come. As winter approached, the world began to reflect on the transformation that had quietly unfolded over the past year. Pope Leo XIV's words had not only inspired policy and cultural change, but had also awakened something deeply personal in millions of hearts. In homes warmed by fires and candlelight, families gathered to share stories, laughter, and sometimes tears. The Pope's message had become a thread running through these moments, a gentle reminder that every stage of life holds its own beauty and meaning. In many communities, elders took on new roles as mentors and guides. Schools invited seniors to speak about their lives, sharing lessons learned from decades of change, challenge, and triumph. Students listened with rapt attention, their questions thoughtful and sincere. The wisdom of age was no longer hidden away, but celebrated and sought after. Faith communities deepened their commitment to honoring their oldest members. Special ceremonies marked significant birthdays and anniversaries with prayers of gratitude for the enduring presence of elders. The Pope's encouragement to embrace forgiveness and reconciliation found fertile ground as families and friends reached out to heal old wounds and restore lost connections. Pope Leo XIV continued to use his platform to advocate for justice and compassion. He addressed world leaders, urging them to remember the dignity of every person regardless of age or ability. He called for an end to discrimination in healthcare, employment, and housing, insisting that societies are strongest when they care for their most vulnerable. "Let us build a world," he said, "where no one is left behind and every life is honored." The Pope's message also resonated in the world of art and literature. Writers penned memoirs and essays about growing older, exploring the joys and sorrows of each passing year. Filmmakers created documentaries that followed the daily lives of seniors, capturing moments of quiet strength and unexpected joy. Museums curated exhibitions dedicated to the beauty of aging, displaying portraits and artifacts that told stories of resilience and hope. Technology companies continued to innovate, developing tools to help older adults stay connected and independent. Virtual reality programs allowed seniors to revisit childhood homes or travel the world from their living rooms. Online communities flourished, offering spaces for people over 60 to share advice, support, and friendship. The digital divide began to narrow as more elders embraced new ways to connect with loved ones and the world. In hospitals and care facilities, the Pope's influence was felt in the smallest of gestures: a nurse taking extra time to listen, a volunteer reading aloud to a patient, a doctor treating each person as a unique and valued individual. The culture of care was changing, shaped by a renewed respect for the dignity of every life. As the holidays approached, Pope Leo XIV delivered a special message of hope. He spoke of light shining in the darkness, of the power of kindness to heal and unite. He urged people of all ages to reach out to those who might be alone to share a meal, a conversation, or a simple act of love. In giving to others, he said, we discover the true meaning of our own lives. The world responded. Communities organized holiday dinners for seniors, volunteers delivered gifts and cards to those in need, and families opened their homes to neighbors who might otherwise spend the season alone. The Pope's call to compassion had become a movement, one that transcended borders, cultures, and generations. As the year drew to a close, the seeds planted by Pope Leo XIV's words had grown into a flourishing garden of dignity, connection, and hope. The world looked toward the future with renewed faith, not just in institutions or leaders, but in the enduring power of love and the wisdom of age. The new year dawned with a sense of promise and gentle anticipation. Pope Leo XIV's message, now woven into the fabric of daily life, continued to inspire both personal and collective acts of kindness. Around the world, people reflected on the lessons of the past months, carrying forward a deeper respect for the wisdom and dignity of age. In many places, seniors found themselves at the heart of new initiatives. Community centers launched mentorship programs pairing older adults with young entrepreneurs, artists, and students. These partnerships flourished, with both generations discovering unexpected sources of inspiration and friendship. The stories of these collaborations filled local newspapers and social media feeds, offering hope and a blueprint for intergenerational solidarity. Pope Leo XIV remained steadfast in his advocacy, reminding the world that the work of compassion was ongoing. He spoke often of the importance of listening truly, listening to the voices of those who had walked long roads. He encouraged leaders in every field to seek counsel from elders, to honor their experience, and to recognize the value of patience and perspective in decision-making. In the realm of healthcare, the Pope's influence led to new standards and practices. Hospitals introduced elder councils to advise on patient care and facility design. Medical schools incorporated courses on aging with dignity, teaching future doctors to approach every patient with humility and respect. Research into age-related diseases received increased funding, driven by a renewed commitment to improving quality of life for all. The arts continued to celebrate the beauty of growing older. Theatre companies staged plays written by and for seniors, exploring themes of memory loss and renewal. Art galleries hosted retrospectives of artists who had created their most powerful work in their later years. Musicians composed songs honoring the resilience and grace of age, their melodies echoing in concert halls and living rooms alike. Faith communities deepened their efforts to include and uplift elders. Pilgrimages and retreats welcomed seniors as spiritual guides, inviting them to share prayers, stories, and blessings. The Pope encouraged these gatherings, reminding participants that spiritual growth is a lifelong journey and that the wisdom of age is a gift to all. Pope Leo XIV also addressed the challenges that can accompany aging: loneliness, illness, and the fear of being forgotten. He called on society to create networks of support to ensure that no one faced these difficulties alone. Volunteers organized regular visits to seniors in their neighborhoods, and technology companies developed new platforms for virtual companionship and support groups. The Pope's vision of a world where every person is seen and valued took root in countless small acts of care. As spring approached, the Pope's message found new expression in the voices of those it had touched. Seniors wrote essays and poems about their lives, sharing them in community newsletters and online forums. Grandparents recorded video messages for grandchildren, passing on family stories, recipes, and words of encouragement. The bonds between generations grew stronger, nourished by gratitude and love. The world, inspired by Pope Leo XIV, moved forward with greater gentleness and understanding. The wisdom of age was no longer hidden or ignored. It was celebrated, cherished, and woven into the future. The Pope's words had become more than a call to action. They were a living legacy, shaping the way people saw themselves and each other at every stage of life. As spring blossomed, the world seemed to move with a new sense of harmony and intention. Pope Leo XIV's influence was now evident not just in grand gestures or sweeping reforms, but in the gentle rhythms of daily life. In parks and plazas, seniors gathered for morning walks, sharing laughter and stories as the sun rose. Community gardens flourished, tended by hands both young and old, their harvests shared at neighborhood tables. Educational institutions expanded their outreach, inviting elders to participate in lectures, workshops, and cultural events. Universities established wisdom fellowships, offering honorary roles to older adults who contributed to campus life through mentoring, storytelling, and public talks. Students found themselves captivated by the lived experiences of their elders, discovering that history is not just found in books, but in the memories of those who have lived it. Pope Leo XIV continued to travel and speak, visiting countries where elders had long been marginalized or forgotten. In each place he called for a renewal of respect and solidarity, reminding societies that the strength of a community is measured by how it treats its oldest members. His presence brought hope and validation to those who had felt invisible for too long. The Pope's message also began to influence the design of public spaces and services. Architects and city planners consulted with seniors to create parks, transportation systems, and housing that supported independence and inclusion. The concept of age-friendly cities gained momentum, with municipalities adopting policies that made life safer and more fulfilling for people of all ages. In the arts, a renaissance of creativity among seniors continued. Film festivals featured documentaries and dramas centered on the lives of older adults. Literary journals published memoirs and poetry that explored themes of legacy, forgiveness, and rediscovery. Music festivals honored performers whose artistry had only deepened with time, drawing audiences eager to celebrate the richness of experience. Faith communities inspired by Pope Leo XIV expanded their ministries to include home visits, prayer circles, and support groups for those facing illness or loss. The Pope encouraged these efforts, reminding everyone that spiritual companionship is a balm for loneliness and a source of strength in times of trial. He spoke often about the importance of hope, a hope that is not naive but rooted in the wisdom that comes from weathering life's storms. As the season progressed, the bonds between generations continued to strengthen. Families organized storytelling nights where elders recounted tales from their youth, teaching children about resilience, humor, and the enduring power of love. Schools hosted grandparents' days, inviting older relatives to share skills and traditions with students. These gatherings became cherished rituals, weaving the threads of memory and belonging ever tighter. Pope Leo XIV's message also reached those who felt burdened by regret or unfinished dreams. He encouraged people to see every day as a new beginning, to forgive themselves for past mistakes, and to embrace the possibilities that remain. "You are never too old to hope, to learn, or to love," he said. "Your story is still being written." As spring gave way to summer, the world stood transformed, not by any single act, but by countless small choices to honor, include, and cherish those over 60. The Pope's words had become a living current, flowing through families, communities, and nations, reminding all that the wisdom of age is a treasure to be celebrated and shared. As summer deepened, the world witnessed the enduring effects of Pope Leo XIV's vision. The seeds of compassion and respect he had planted now bore fruit in every corner of society. In bustling cities and quiet villages, elders found themselves not only included, but celebrated. Their birthdays, anniversaries, and personal milestones became occasions for community gatherings where gratitude and admiration flowed freely. In many countries, governments reported measurable improvements in the well-being of seniors. Rates of loneliness and depression declined as social programs expanded and intergenerational initiatives flourished. Healthcare systems, inspired by the Pope's advocacy, prioritized preventive care and holistic support for older adults. Clinics offered wellness workshops, memory care programs, and counseling tailored to the needs of those over 60. The dignity of each person was affirmed not just in words, but in daily practice. Pope Leo XIV continued to reach out to those on the margins. He visited remote villages, urban neighborhoods, and refugee communities, always seeking out the elders who had endured hardship and loss. He listened to their stories with humility, offering blessings and encouragement. "Your endurance is a beacon for us all," he told a group of elderly survivors in a war-torn region. "You show us what it means to persevere with hope." The arts too continued to reflect and amplify the Pope's message. Film and television celebrated the complexity and richness of later life, challenging stereotypes and inviting audiences to see aging in a new light. Museums hosted exhibitions on the history and culture of aging, featuring artifacts and testimonies from elders around the world. The creative energy unleashed by Pope Leo XIV's call to honor the wisdom of age became a hallmark of the era. Faith communities remained at the forefront of this movement. Churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples organized retreats, pilgrimages, and study groups for seniors. The Pope encouraged these gatherings, reminding participants that spiritual growth is lifelong and that the questions and insights of age are vital to the health of any faith tradition. He often quoted ancient proverbs about the value of elders weaving together the wisdom of many cultures and religions. In families, the bonds between generations grew ever stronger. Grandparents became regular fixtures in classrooms, teaching children about history, ethics, and resilience. Parents encouraged their children to seek out the company of elders, knowing that the lessons learned would shape their lives for years to come. The Pope's vision of a world united by respect and compassion was becoming reality, one relationship at a time. Pope Leo XIV also spoke to those who struggled with regret or a sense of unfinished business. He reminded them that every day offers a chance for renewal, forgiveness, and growth. "Your life is a gift," he said in a summer address. "It is never too late to begin again, to make peace, or to share your love with others." As the season drew to a close, communities around the world held festivals and celebrations in honor of their elders. Music, dance, and storytelling filled the air, weaving together the threads of memory and hope. The Pope's words echoed through these gatherings, a reminder that the wisdom of age is not a relic of the past, but a living force shaping the present and the future. The world, inspired by Pope Leo XIV, moved forward with greater unity, purpose, and joy. The journey was not without challenges, but the foundation had been laid, a foundation built on dignity, connection, and the enduring power of the human spirit. As autumn returned, the world paused to reflect on the transformation that had unfolded since Pope Leo XIV's words first touched the hearts of millions over 60. The movement he inspired had become not just a fleeting moment, but a lasting change in how society viewed aging, dignity, and the value of every life. Communities everywhere marked the season with gatherings that honored their elders. In city squares and village halls, people of all ages came together to share meals, music, and memories. The stories of those over 60 were no longer hidden or overlooked. They were at the center of family traditions, community celebrations, and national narratives. Elders spoke with pride, their voices steady and clear, knowing they were finally being heard. Pope Leo XIV continued to encourage the world to nurture this spirit of inclusion. In his autumn address, he spoke of the cycles of life, comparing the wisdom of age to the golden leaves that give beauty and meaning to the year's end. "Cherish your elders," he said. "Their presence is a blessing, their stories a guide, their love a foundation for our future." The Pope's message had also transformed the way people approached the end of life. Conversations about legacy, forgiveness, and hope became more open and honest. Families gathered not just to mourn, but to celebrate the fullness of lives well lived. The fear of aging and dying, once a shadow over many, was replaced by a sense of peace and gratitude. In the world of policy and public life, the changes were equally profound. Laws protecting the rights and dignity of seniors became standard in many countries. Healthcare, housing, and social services were designed with the wisdom and needs of elders in mind. The lessons learned from this movement began to influence the way societies cared for all vulnerable people, spreading compassion and justice far beyond the original audience. The arts and media continued to highlight the beauty and complexity of aging. New generations of writers, filmmakers, and musicians drew inspiration from the stories and talents of those who had lived long lives. Museums and libraries curated collections that preserved the voices and visions of elders for posterity, ensuring that their wisdom would never be lost. Pope Leo XIV's legacy was felt not only in grand reforms or public celebrations, but in the quiet moments of daily life. A grandchild listening intently to a grandfather's tale, a neighbor checking in on an elderly friend, a community gathering to celebrate a milestone birthday. The world had learned to move a little slower, to listen a little more deeply, and to honor the journey of every soul. As the year drew to a close, the Pope's final message was simple yet profound. Every life is a story worth telling. Every day is a chance to love and be loved. May we never forget the gifts of those who came before us, and may we carry their wisdom forward, lighting the path for all who follow. The world changed by his words stepped into the future with greater compassion, unity and hope, forever touched by the soul-stirring message of Pope Leo XIV.